Welcome to the Leading Real Change podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jacqueline Kerr, an expert in workplace culture change. From my unique background in behavior science, public health, and community advocacy, I help corporate leaders with evidence-based individual, team, and organizational change to create thriving workplace cultures for all. In the Leading Real Change podcast, I interview dedicated and passionate change makers about their careers, how they lead change, and what leaders can do today to make a difference, to build healthy, inclusive workplace cultures for all. I'm excited to share these examples of real workplace change with you. You'll learn about effective strategies that are working and how to overcome real barriers to change that challenge us every day. I hope you'll feel inspired and more confident to keep leading change in your workplace. Please share this podcast with other HR, DEI, or ERG leaders who you know are working hard but are struggling to have an impact and need more support to effectively create a thriving workplace culture for all today.
Hi, I'm Art Shaikh. I'm founder and CEO of Circleit. Circleit is a generational platform that is built to help you connect with loved one across time. What that means is the technology lets you send cards and gifts to loved ones, even long after you're gone. That's a service that we provide where we make sure that anything that you want to be done in the future, we are the company that you're going to trust for loved ones for us to be able to deliver those.
Great. I absolutely love that mission. When you first told me about it, I got goosebumps thinking about how I could have connected my grandmother in particular with my daughter who has the same name. So I love your mission. How long have you been doing this? And do you still consider yourself a startup? And what's the size of your workforce?
Yeah, we have 30 employees globally. I consider ourselves a startup. We're going to be startup for many years. I think startup are more fun where you can do crazy things about building technology and solving problems that bigger companies cannot. So I like being in that startup mode for a very long time.
So often in that situation, the startup mentality is crazy hours, crisis management, everything goes out the window for the product, for the profitability, for the performance, for funders. So it can be a really stressful environment. So tell me what your approach to burnout is and how you're managing that in this type of environment.
So having worked for a technology company like Salesforce.com for many years before leaving and starting Circleit, I was exposed to a lot of that startup rat race, like the speed, everything. Salesforce, you learned about working at different levels. If you think about, we all can run 100-meter sprints, but if I line you up next to a professional sprinter, you're going to learn a lot and you're going to go, wow, these people, what they are doing, prepping and everything is just complete. That's the type of stuff I had learned. So I knew what I was getting into this startup world. This is being a founder. I don't advise everyone to do. It's not for everyone, but if you really are passionate about something, then there's nothing better than that. So I will give you that disclaimer, but I'll tell you also the personal reward of building something and having it accepted globally and all is amazing. But it took me 6 years just to get to this point. So the idea of Circleit started in 2016, then filed patents and building the technology, then build the team, then release the technology, then got funding, build a more team. But any foundership is minimum 10-year cycle, minimum. 10 years of chaos and just continuously pivoting as times and things change.
Right. So that's the reality. It does take 10 years. And even if we can think about experiencing stress for short periods of time, burnout is chronic stress. And that's why it can be so prevalent, especially in the technology and startup industry. When did you start paying attention to burnout and how did you approach your company differently from what you'd seen elsewhere?
Yeah. So I never stopped paying attention to burnout. I have even more responsibility because now there's 30 other people I'm responsible for the livelihood also. So you have to balance the burnout and what we need to do as business with smaller team to continue growing where we need to go. My first priority is My burnout, I'll come to that part on how I manage that, but more importantly, observing even my own team members and just seeing when they are getting burned out, because these people aren't raising hands and saying, hey, I need to take a walk, I need to relax, a lot of stress. So just being continuously in touch with the folks that the team I've been working for years is almost like mom knows when the child is hungry, right? So I can see when my team member is a little down and whatnot. And at times I'm telling them, close your laptop, go. Last week, there was 70 degrees temperature in Chicago. We don't get a lot of that in September and October type of stuff. So my answer to my team was everyone needs to close their laptop and actually go enjoy that sun and whatnot, because just need to decompress. So I regulate my team wherever I can, because I just know that they are not going to put their swords down. So they're going to keep marching and fighting. So I have to pull them back in that sense. But that, as a founder, if team is gone, somebody's still got to answer the phone calls and run the office. So that taxes my own ability to do that. And that is something over time, what I've been able to do is if I leave, once I leave the office, I go home for 3-4 hours. I'm not touching my device. I'm not doing anything. And just maybe it can be as simple as just watching Shark Tank or learning something or watching a Discovery Channel. Something that gets my mind off from thinking about work is my way of decompressing. Some people jump from the plane and parachute, all those. I don't have the time to do all that. So I find simple ways to be able to decompress without taking a 2-month vacation.
Great, great. Some of the symptoms you mentioned that you saw, describe some of those, because I think it's really helpful for founders to think about what do the symptoms look like in their employees.
So it starts with the personality. So you get to see how they are when they are happy and then when they are down, right? I don't know how to explain it, but there's something in the body language and facial expressions that is my signal. Maybe different things for each all, but I see that from a facial expression, from a body language, and it's just something that is different and they are not as their joyous selves. So that gives me an opportunity to ask a question: is everything okay? Sometimes it could be a relationship thing. Sometimes it could be work. So not necessarily everything that's putting them down is actually work. It could be somebody's father. Like just a few days ago, one of my team members, she had to rush out because her father went to emergency and he's a heart patient. Obviously, like those things happen also. So there's too many battles going on for everyone. So it's important to find out what is that and how can you really help. So if it is something, hey, it means take 2 days off, have time with your father, do what you need to do. Sometimes the solutions are as simple as that, but you just have to know your team members when they are happy and when they're not. And it's, as a founder, it's just my job to do it. I don't have a HR department that's walking around and doing all that. I like to do that myself because these team members are giving a part of their life for what crazy idea I had. So I feel like we all together will make it on the other side.
Yeah, I love that. And some of your analogies there are so important. Yes, we all have so many battles we're facing. So anything you can do to help people get through that, because those battles affect how you work. Whether we think we should keep them out of work, they do have an impact. And I know a colleague who does a team building exercise around energy so that people learn how to spot each other's energy when they are in happy or in full energy or when they're looking drained, because sometimes it's hard to tell, but those are good cues.
See, it's like even like in my life situation, like my mom was sick and we thought we were going to lose all that type of stuff. I'm here and she's overseas. Like just to even fly over there, you take 27 hours to get there. So that had me pretty upset, where I lose the focus from. So those days, even though I come to my office 5 days a week, but during those times, I was not fully there in that sense. So I worked from home. So that was one less thing to put on clothes and go out. I was able to manage those. So those type of flexibility is important if something is happening, even though we are work in the office culture, but we quickly change to adapt to a person's need at that particular point. And that is important, to be flexible. Rules are there, but there are times when you have to break your own rules because there's something of a higher meaning. Mental health of my employees, my team members, all those folks is extremely important. And that comes in above, hey, we need to be in the office because we work in collaboration together. So having that flexibility and honestly trusting your team members. If somebody says today want to work from home because for whatever reason, we don't ask for those reasons because we trust the people that we have. And if we didn't trust them, we probably will not have them here as well. And they will not be here. So we don't ask for reasons for why it is. If that's what you want to do today because you have certain things, go ahead. Because in the end, in the smaller teams and in startups, trust is a very important thing between you and your team members. Being able to know that you're all on the same page, and then it becomes easy from that point.
And so how come you are such a human versus one that doesn't let themselves feel emotions and that turns up for work without recognizing that anything else is happening at home?
6 years ago, I was a lot more hard-tempered business-wise. This is nothing personal. So business, we have to build a business and we have to run it in a certain way and we have to make sure we service our customers. So I was very critical in the start, team member training, all that. But now over the years, I've built that team. So now my life is so much easier. So if you would have caught me 2, 3 years ago, I've lost some friends because they came to work at Circleit and it didn't work out for whatever reason. It's not personal. It was not the right fit for where we were as a company then and where we are today. Maybe in the future, that may be a good fit type of stuff. So I've learned a lot through that. But more importantly, I try to work on this part. Any given day, the world could be burning. And if I continuously react to that, then my team will take that and their morale will go down. So it's just being the general. Sometimes you could be dying on the front lines, but you have to say, keep marching type of stuff. Like you have to put up a face, you have to be the leader in that because your teams are looking at you. So just over time, founders find ways to manage their own stress. Just put it that way. A little better every time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important. And interestingly, I was speaking with an organization called Culture IV, who provides services for startup companies. And the lady was describing that one of the most frequent patterns of problems they see is when it is friends who are hired by a company. And there's such confusion in expectations and boundaries that it actually can make it quite difficult. So that's a pattern that they're trying to address because they see it repeating so often in startups.
And you know what happens is that we all have our inner circle, friends and coworkers and people around us. So when you start something, you don't have anyone, right? So you can't call in somebody that is working for some company and convince them to leave their job at that particular point. So a lot of people that step up and wants to help out are the people around you who like your idea, who may like your ambition or may like what you are going to build, or they believe in you to make it and they want to be a part of that. So those type of reasons, a lot of friends and all come in initially. But as a founder, you just got to look at early on, and this is something everyone makes those mistakes. First, you take what you can get, and later on you realize, okay, this is not the right fit for the organization. And it just founders maturity. Over time, you get better at that. Now, when I have these conversations, even if a friend may call up and say, hey, I got laid off in this tech thing and now I'm looking for a job, I'm able to have a conversation, but I'm able to have a very real conversation of where I don't want to destroy my friendship. So it's like working for me looks like this, and this is what the team is. And if they sign up, I still have a lot of friends on my team that were friends first and no employee type of relationship. So we continue to manage this. We all have a same goal. As long as we are all together towards the same goal working, things fall into place.
Great. And so you described some of the reasons that people might experience burnout if they're having a stress with a family member, either in your company or in other companies that you've worked in. What are some of the main causes of burnout that you've seen that you think we need to address?
Sometimes when you have teams and everything, things can go right. But what happens is you can lose a couple of team members. Like one of our team member was battling cancer, like all those type of stuff happening. When these things are happening, it throws the team off. Somebody else has to step up and take on more responsibility. So you could be adding to that burnout, even at a higher rate like that. But people out of true love and emotion for each other, I'll step up, I'll do a little bit more, I'll do a little bit more. So everyone is forced into those situations depending on how life goes. In just the last year alone, I mean, we have had team members go down with COVID. We had team members that were battling something that was terminally ill type of stuff. So those things are there, but rest of the people have stepped in. And when you all are not treating each other like employees and treat each other with respect and love, people are willing to help out. But at the same time, when those things are happening, my thing is, how do I get one more help to make sure that this person doesn't burn out? But in the short run, you can't just hire fast enough. Like by the time you put your resumes out and interview candidates, it will be 3-4 weeks. Our customers are expecting to be able to send their cards, get their messages out, and all those things. So how does everything operates with less people? So the other burnout that nobody really looks at is when other team members are goes down or they are on vacation and stuff like that. That adds more stress than an individual one. Everyone knows what they signed up for, and they have a good way to go about their day outside the fire drills we may have from time to time. But it's just that happens to be when other team members goes down, that adds more stress on a smaller team.
And so what are some of the other burnout approaches you take in your company? Because if we're thinking about like overwork or hours worked, rewards, what other things do you use to help reduce burnout?
Going back to the simplicity part. So what I decided early on, like before we were in the office as a team, September 15, 2021, when we started, before that, we worked 2 years remotely with each other. So a lot of us knew each other from a digital face, but never had met each other in person also. So when we all came in, people moved to Chicago. Teresa, my head of communication, she moved from Carolinas. Joe moved in from Michigan. All those people came in and started working all together. Okay. So that ultimately was a big thing for us, like just to get to know the team members and everyone in person. And now we are in a spot where he is working from home this week, for example, we have built enough chemistry and know each other much better. It's so much easier later on to actually give the people that time back. So first thing I did is I said Fridays, everyone gets to work from home, even though me comes to the office for many different things I need to catch up on, but I let my team members work from home. Just giving that flexibility has boosted our employees' performance. And they just know that I'm not trying to grind them out to everything. And we'll find pockets of ways to actually help and give you flexibility, because there are certain days you just want to work in your pajamas, because we have been used to for the last 2 years to be able to do that. It's again the simple thing. That is one thing that we did. The other things is, I'll explain this. So I look at my team members and all, and random days we be like, you know what, you guys go get your massage and manicures or pedicures or whatever, just go and have that time for yourself. So those small ways, it's not like how much this thing costs, like $500, $200 type of stuff, but we're going to pay for those things for team members and just get them out of the office and go do some things together as a team, but that nothing has to do with work type of stuff. Just relax. So again, smaller things. We don't have the budget like Google or Facebook and all that type of stuff. So we have to do smaller things. But yeah, those are the type of things that we try to find ways to say, we love you, we appreciate in our own way and in our own limited resources we have.
And some of the guidelines that I try and give companies are around things like focus, flexibility, fairness, and purpose. So can you speak to any of those in how you have role modeled your company value or how you demonstrate fairness and focus? You talked a lot about flexibility.
This is very near and dear to me. So I look at this way. I've worked at different companies where you all have your favorites and everything. Okay. And then the other ones that aren't favorite, that they don't feel that love from that perspective. Okay. And so my first point of view was, I try to treat, again, we are humans, we are not perfect. We make our mistakes. We have our good days and we have our bad days. Okay. I am the same, guilty of some of that. Okay. But trying to improve. But one thing is very simple. I keep my office, our culture is no politics. We're working towards a mission, and people that buy into that is the ones that we have. And I try to be fair. So if I am today, give Sam something, let's say it could be a AirPod. The next time it will be for Liz, or it will be for T, maybe sending her to a football game with her husband. So I like to distribute that. And so that my team knows that I may not be able to do everything for everyone at that time, but slowly I'm not going to forget that. So I'll be as fair as possible. So to me, that is more important. Your team members need to know that. And once they know that there's no favorites and politics or this, it's just a very different dynamic. If you're ever in Chicago, I would tell you to come to our office and meet the team. And you're happy to talk to them and ask them about that. But I try to be as fair as possible.
Great, great. Those are some good examples. So what about focus? How do you help people focus then?
I'm not good at making people focus. I will tell you, or maybe I'm lucky. The team I have over the years, I've been able to build. If you look at my schedule, a lot of leaders will have all these call with every team member. What are you working on this week? And I actually don't do that. We get in the room every Monday and we're talking about what we are doing this week, this month, and all. And everyone within the team is working with each other and coordinating and setting up their next step meetings and all. So we give them the freedom to do what they do. We treat them like adults, and that reduces stress on my side because I don't have to ask 30 team members every single week what they are working on because they're telling me all the things that is in motion. And I'm like, do I need to know this detail or not? Because we are all focused on different aspects. So Teresa is working on design and she's working on the communication. Those are things I like to see what's going out to the customer, but I don't need to be involved on day to day. So we give each person the freedom to actually do what they do. And only thing is, I keep myself available and open. When they need something, when they want an opinion, when they need me to review and approve something that they think that I should be looking at, I'm there. So my team pulls me in where they would want me. Otherwise, I keep a little bit of a hands off to them because you don't need another person sit on your shoulder just looking at everything. That's not a high performing team works that way.
Exactly. And tell me a little bit more then about the company values you have and how people can align with those values, because I think that's a big part of what you do.
Yeah. So a core of anything that we do is trust. Number one, since I started this company, if our customers don't trust us, we don't have a business. If our employees don't trust that this business and me as a founder have the best interest of their heart, I don't really have a team. Okay. So those things, you can't really just go and buy trust online. You just cannot do that. So those are earned through every action we take every day and every action that we take. And that is all I could do as a person. So my team knows I got their back. And every time I get that chance, they continue to see. So it reinforces, right? When the team just knows that guy, the founder, the CEO has their back, will do everything to keep them, not just when the VC says tech market is down 50%, I think you should lay off and save more cash. The CEO goes in and sells his own car and says, I'm going to fund my employees, right? And I had to do that in the past. Okay. So again, not every CEO has very expensive cars. I used to have one. There were times when we were in the cash crunch and we were waiting for more investment money to come in. We still had to make payrolls. I could have shut down. I could have fired some people, laid off, and do the fake Instagram tear of, I'm so hurt that I'm laying off my team members. No, what I did is I went in and I sold my very beautiful SUV because we needed to continue going on. When team members see that, like, if I'll sell this if I have to in order to have their back, after that team and that relationship is very strong. Nothing can break that.
Great. And what about purpose that you provide through the work you're doing? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So the purpose part was actually a lot easier to explain to the people. So when I hired the team, I'll give you just example of just a couple of those scenarios, right? The first person, the CTO of the company, my friend Rafi Sayed, when I brought him on and I was telling him about the vision, he immediately looked at it and started talking about how his father would have loved to use the technology. Okay, just similarly to how you were thinking, right? But he lost his father. So he looked at it and said, I would have loved to receive it. But now if I can work with you to offer this to the rest of the people, I may not get that joy, but I'll get that joy from just helping people. So that was the first guy that came in that really helped put the technology in the marketplace, right? And then came in people like his mom, before she passed away from cancer, wrote him letters that he read years later that he found out about that. So how am I going to teach purpose to these people? They already have their own purpose. So Joe's mission, I don't know which way or so, but 13 years ago, things that my mom did really got me to this company because I would have never thought of this company. I would have never wanted to work for this company, but I'm so emotionally connected to that mission because of what my own personal thing is. And just through that, everyone has their own purpose. Somebody had cancer. Somebody in the team doesn't have kids and she wants to preserve all the things about her and her family members for the next generation. So everyone found their own meaning behind helping build Circleit. It was never about paying six-figure salaries because we couldn't afford to pay all that. Like my team members have taken hits during the down years when we didn't have all that money. So they took a lot less money. When we had more money, we paid them a little bit more. So together we just find ways to continue.
Great. These are great examples. So, what are some of the successful outcomes of your efforts, would you say? What are the experiences? If we say that out there in the world, there's quiet quitting, there's a regrettable turnover, what are the outcomes that you're seeing?
During the Great Resignation, we don't hear about Great Resignation anymore because right now it's now a employer's market is coming back because a lot of companies are laying off 10-20% of their team members. But before, when the Great Resignation was more popular in the marketplace, for 2 years since we put Circleit together, we lost 0 employees to another employer, somebody offering higher money. And that doesn't mean my team member, my employees, everyone is not being prospected. These people came together and none of us had built anything like this before, but together this team was able to accomplish the things that has other people looking and saying, how can you do this with so little people? It takes other bigger companies. They can put 1 million people on a technology and use, you're putting 5 million in 1 year. How do you do that? Again, we don't know how to do that, but we didn't know, but we figured it out together. So it's just the things that we are able to do now and what our team members have learned, like they have learned so much here while doing the work. Whereas if they were working for some bigger company, they may be only working on this section, a small little section that they never ever show. So the type of work they do shows up every single day. It may go on Newsweek, it may go on our website where millions of people are using. So a lot of their work is very rewarding because they are able to do something and they are heard. So if a designer or a UI UX person has a lot of freedom to actually take risk and design and be able to do things. And I look at certain approval to make sure that these are all within the brand, but more importantly, I give them the freedom to explore there as well. It's just, again, I have a different way of running organization because I just thought that building a company the old stodgy way is just boring. I didn't want to do that.
Innovation and creativity. Exactly.
In the end, we are all humans, right? Like we have the similar type of problem. We are trying to provide for our family. We're trying to be happy, all that type of stuff. So how do I not add to the stress of my team members is the goal. When the workplace is happy, it's a lot more fulfilling for everyone. If you had to go from life things that you're battling, now go to work and it has a super stressful environment, then it's no longer fun anymore. And that's when you need to go do something else.
Those are such great reflections. You're the one doing it and living it every day. So if you have advice for other founders out there, how to set up, how to burnout proof their organization, what would you say?
Burnout proof, or even building long-term relationship with your team members and employees, right? Like the key is, to me, I'm just not that type of person, but that I would do this, but don't treat them like employees, like you cut them a salary, right? If you take that tone, they're going to treat you exactly like that. Okay. So you decide the culture is built by the founder, by the CEO. It won't be my VP of marketing will build that culture. So what my personality is shows up in how I manage and lead my team. And if you can work on your own self and have the wisdom to understand what motivates people and what not, right? Do it. I chose to be transparent with my team. I chose to be honest with my team. They knew where we stood financially, whatnot at all given points. So I'm not like pulling wool over their eyes, right? It's just not trying to do any of that. So when you are a real person solving a big problem and your team sees you're as honest as one can be running a business and doing everything to help them out, it's those type of stuff helps team members reduce their burnout indirectly. Obviously, workload and stuff, I've always had this policy with my team members. And this call is a good reminder that I got to continue reminding them. We say, if you are overloaded, raise your hand. If you raise your hand, everyone in the team will step in and help you. There's no consequences of that. That is one thing I have always said. Don't hold it in. Raise your hand, ask for help. There are other team members. I'll jump in and I'll do things. Okay. We don't take it negatively. Oh, look at that. He's raised or she's raising hands and that type of stuff. When you don't treat them like that, they're comfortable raising that hand also and asking for team members' help. So that's how we look at this way. What I see, how they operate, I can detect some burnout, but if they're working from home, I may not see them often, but I give them the opportunity to raise a hand, and it is done in all team spirit. So ultimately, you own the culture. And I can tell you in this day and age, jobs are dime a dozen. Like anyone can get a job making pretty good money anywhere type of stuff. You're going to lose people if you don't build a strong culture ultimately where team members actually work and they fight for each other, right? Like they don't want to let each other down. So if somebody, we have deadlines. So if this person is slow and the other one has a deadline, they watch each other's back. So once you build that dynamic, truly a team, and you can't call a team if they don't have each other's back. Okay. So super functioning teams help each other out. And that has always been my point. Nobody is big enough to not answer a phone call. Or in the start, like before we had cleaners, I was taking out the trash. Like I could have written a big check to some big cleaning services over there, but it is okay when you do things by yourself. When your team sees if you're able to do this, everybody else looks, yeah, great, we'll help out. Like we don't have 7 days a week cleaners. So our cleaner ladies comes in twice a week. So during time, we still put our dishes into our machines and put detergent and turn it on when we leave, that type of stuff. Everyone helps out. There's nobody's job. You got to make sure the kitchen is clean, but we all help out. That's again, part of the team. Once you build that team, rest of the stuff becomes easy. And new people that you bring on, your team members will be the big ambassadors of that culture ultimately, because other ones will see that. And it's easy to fix one broken one than to fix everyone.
That's great. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So anything else for what's next as you continue to grow, how you keep these principles in place? Because again, often people find that when things are small, they can communicate effectively and create a culture that is the culture you're describing. But as you grow, that becomes more difficult if you don't have processes or other things in place. So yeah, what are your plans to keep this?
So I look at each year in a startup as a completely different year. So like in 2023, we know we need to hire about 20 to 25 more team members. That literally doubling our team. So we're not going to be able to do all that 25 people at one shot. So we're going to look at quarterly. We're going to bring in 3 to 4 people, then bring on 3 to 4. So what I'm working on mostly is how my leadership structure is going to be. So people like Teresa and Joe are taking on senior roles. So now not only am I working with them on what we are working on, when we bring on new people, how they will help train and get the most out of those team members because they may fall under them. So just putting some aspect of leadership without that building a full-blown hierarchy, because we're not 30 years in business, publicly traded company, their hierarchies are like so far removed from the top type of stuff. So still, how do I stay engaged with my team member? But more importantly, how do I enable my leaders to actually continue to do their job at the best? And how do I help them? So that's the next phase of my evolution of my company, is trusting my core leadership team around me and spending more time to train them so that downstream we can continue to make sure that every other one team member is impacted.
Great. You're really thinking about this. You think about the human first, it seems.
I was an employee before I became a founder. I've seen good leaders and I've seen bad leaders. I've seen such great leaders, like 3, 4 of my leaders that I last worked for influence the way so again, they gave me the freedom, so I learned about the freedom. Then I learned is like when my leader Sean gave me the freedom to go and had my back, I performed really well. So I looked and said, look how it changed me. Again, I don't know if it works in real life on other people, but I applied that same mentality, and I'm going to trust my team and I'm going to give that freedom. But I saw that as an examples of other leaders that did that with me. So that's why some of my leaders that I work with, I'm still friends with them. I still call them boss. And it's just those between each other type of relationship that has never to do with the word boss, but it's just, I call it like that. One of my leaders, I call him my commander when I'm talking. His son years later came in and did internship for me. So I used to work for his father. His son was working for me. That type of relationship I've had, but I've learned from better leaders on what not to do, because the bad ones have shown me that. And I just apply that basic human golden rule. Like, I don't want to do things that I don't want others to do to me.
Thanks so much for listening today. I hope the podcast brings you fresh ideas, renewed confidence, and energy to keep leading change. If you need a partner in these efforts, I can help you effectively build a thriving workplace culture for all. I'll help you overcome the real barriers to change you face every day and help you lead real change with evidence-based solutions. In particular, I want to work with passionate leaders who have tried and failed, because I know you have what it takes, and your experience will help you clearly recognize the difference I can make. For a free consultation today, please visit my website at www.leading-real-change.com. That's www.leadingrealchange.com.
Take control, you're a fighter. Push the limits and see it, you're already there. Told you we going higher. Ain't no stopping us, we're going in for the win. And we're gonna celebrate. Then we're gonna do it all over again. And we're gonna rock this place, 'cause this is our day. We're gonna do it together, through any weather, rain, sleet, storm or hell. We're gonna prove it together, move it together. There's no option to fail. We're gonna do it together, through any weather, rain, sleet, storm or hell. We're gonna prove it together, move it together. There's no option to fail. Close your eyes, feel the power. Everything that you need